All right, have a look at the airways. So this is a mannequin, and this is a throat. That's about the same size as the mannequin, so we can have a good look at the airway. And so I first want to look at the trajectory, but there's a few landmarks when we do airways. So there's the Adam's apple. On the model there's a structure here, so it must be important, and indeed it is. It's the cricoid ring which will live around here. One way of easily finding it on yourself is sliding your finger down from the Adam's apple. You feel this little trough, and there's the cricoid, and then these two fingers can apply it. Okay, we have a mouth, we have a nose. Ooh, maybe we can look inside. So here on this model, right, it's a little bit easier. So let's have a good look. I don't know if I hold the camera like that, if it will be obvious on the video what shape the airway really has. So hopefully it will become clear that the voice box, which is this area here, or the larynx, is anterior. Okay, so if we look inside, the air needs to go through the nose and through the mouth. Then we need to find the airway and the depth there. Yep, then we can sort of look into it now. So we see the large tongue, and we see the smaller tongue at the base of the tongue, and that's called the epiglottis. So we have the glottis, we have the epiglottis, and deep down we have the voice box with the vocal cords, and then if we look at the top, the voice box with the vocal cords, and the epiglottis from the inside goes up against the base of the tongue, and then the cricoid, and then the trachea with the rings and the main bronchus. Also, if you look at that, you see that the airway sort of seems to more naturally go into the right bronchus, and it really deviates more towards the left, in the left bronchus. So these are all important considerations when you want to manage an airway. So let's just have a little look at the physiology. So first of all, the voice box with the Adam's apple is more anterior, or more pronounced, if you prefer to say that, in males. And this is due because in puberty boys start to release lots of testosterone, and testosterone moves the voice box forward. So hopefully you can see me here. There's my Adam's apple, there's my cricoid ring. If I push it backward, my voice gets naturally a little bit squeezy and sounds really weird, but I'm not straining. It's just because my voice box is more towards the back, and then when I let it go, naturally you can hear my voice drops again. So I don't know, maybe Mother Nature decided that a low voice will attract women and make them want to make babies or something of the kind, but we'll leave that to your own discernment, what you want to do with that. So if you would see in the Adam's apple here, now when I swallow, the Adam's apple goes up, and I'll do it once more, and a third time. Okay, so what does that mean? So if we look at the model here, if the Adam's apple goes up internally, I can push this up, internally this epiglottis will come up, and so if food is pushed by the tongue downwards, yeah, it will push this epiglottis over the airway, and then the food should go down in that floppy oval looking space, and that's the esophagus. Okay, so the tongue is an interesting structure itself. So on the model around here, you'll feel a bone. I'll do that on myself. So right here, I can feel a bone on myself. Yeah, that's the hyoid. It swings freely. The tongue attaches to that, and this structure's here, and then it comes forward. Later on there will be an x-ray vision of someone's throat, and it will be very easy to see how the tongue is just almost suspended freely, which allows the tongue to move very freely. Alright, So enough of those landmarks. So when we want to manage an airway because the patient themselves won't do it anymore because they're unconscious for one reason or the other, then we'll see that the natural physiology is actually a barrier that we need to circumvent. So the first circumvention is really this epiglottis, but also this tongue. So you can imagine if you're unconscious, the big tongue may drop down and start occluding the airway, pushing the epiglottis down with it, and we have a problem. So we have this different positionings. So there's this famous term called the sniffing position. So what is the sniffing position really all about? Well, good question. I imagine that if I hold it myself, there was some pompous Englishman who would open its doors of its mansion in the morning and sniff the air. I think a better example is when you have a hot drink of some sort, cocoa or tea, you don't want to scald yourself, you may naturally do this before you drink it. So the idea is then that if we look at the airway on its side, that this curve, that's naturally this bend, will be stretched out. So by holding this in place, but flexing the neck and bringing the jaw forward, this bend will be released. So almost like pushing it like that. So therefore, in medicine, in anesthetics, we take, this is the mental aspect of the mandible from thinking. I'm thinking. Mental aspect. And the thyroid. This distance, the thyromental distance, will indicate how sharp this bend really is. And of course, the shorter the distance, the more drastic and harder the bend will be to circumnavigate. So here's a good example. From here to here, I got a nice bend. I'd imagine this being closer, then the bend will be like that. So that makes it hard. So again, thyromental distance, an indication of this curvature in the airway and how difficult it will be to manage that airway. Okay, smaller the distance, the harder it will be. So we need to circumnavigate that. So sniffing position on this model is a bit hard, but it could be accomplished, for example, by putting a cushion or a prefabricated foam cushion structure underneath the head, literally lifting this up, lifting that up, and then smoothing out this sharp bend. Similar when we do jaw thrust, what we really try to do is have this mandible on a straight angle with the bed or the floor, and then we want to lift this up. I see a lot of people moving it forward, but we want to lift this up, because when we lift it up like so, we then straightening out this bend, which makes it easier to see the airway. Now another aspect is here we have the occiput. So the first thing, we can swing the occiput, but then we can bring the whole of the back of the head closer to the shoulders, and see what it will do with the model. See, the thyromental distance becomes larger. This is hard to do with one hand. This hard model. Thyromental distance becomes larger, and this bend will flatten out, make it much more easier to circumnavigate the epiglottis and manage the airway. So these are positioning strategies, but we can also use adjuncts. So here is the first adjunct, which is not the nasopharyngeal, it's the oropharyngeal or the gudal. Apparently, allegedly, saved more lives than anything else. In the First World War, these little units were placed in people's airways and kept them breathing and alive. Whereas elsewise, often the tongue may have occluded the airway and we have a problem. So size is of really big importance now, to say from the corner of the mouth to the angle of the mandible or the middle of the mouth, like so. So these big heads are red. I've never seen actually someone measure it with, a bigger size head we'll need is size 5. A smaller head than this one, we'll go to 4, which is yellow, and then even smaller in the adults, we go to the size 3, which is green. If we look in here, we can see why the size is so important. So if I place this Goodell here, the red one, properly, yep, you can see that's the beginning of the mouth, and should go over, it's hard with one hand, over the tongue, holding the epiglottis down, and then it will create this beautiful airway. So you can imagine if the Goodell is too short, like this one, yeah, it starts pushing down on the epiglottis. Don't know if you can see that. It's pushing down on the epiglottis, and it will occlude the airway. So you can save yourself all the razzmatazz of positioning in the right way by placing this Goodell in front of the mouth, over the tongue, over the epiglottis, and you have a perfect airway. Okay. The next level, we're going to this LMA. There's all different types and shapes, invented by Dr. Archie Breen, Dr. Breen from the UK. This patent was established in 1988, so by 2008, international patents last only for 20 years. We've got all these cheaper disposable models. This particular one is the Supreme. It's a size 4, could be a size bigger, I imagine. Alright. To prepare it, you need to deflate this cuff. Yep. And then you'll see this in the movie as well. The tongue is your big enemy, so you either have to go towards the side of the tongue or over the palate, and then place the tip in the esophagus. Inflate. It doesn't need a whole huge bit of air, so I'll just put 20 mils in. You can see that pumps it up really quite nicely. Yep. And on my pilot here, so that's still quite empty, but you have a good filled cushion there. Okay, so what we have here is a masking of the airway. So if I open this up, you can kind of just see the epiglottis there. The tip is in the esophagus, and I'm forming a mask over the larynx or the voice box. So if I pick up this model and I look inside, it's not the best, but you can sort of see towards the end there is the laryngeal mask. Yeah, and you see the airways are free. Well, could be better. Have to come to the face-to-face session. Alright, so that's the laryngeal mask airway, and I'll show you a better video in a second. So the next level of intervention is the endotracheal tube, and here we have one. So you can see here this one has a cuff. If you test the cuff, which would be a natural thing to do, and the manufacturer says kind of no longer warranted that it will work, but if you don't test this, how do you know it's patent? So it's a bit of a difficult situation. These two black lines are markers, so the vocal cords need to be in between these two black lines as an indicating that dual endotracheal tube is in the right positioning. And then here on the tube itself, there's the size, so it's a 7.5. And you see here markings, so you can see these markings at the lips and decide that, okay, it is, for example, 22 on the lips or 21 on the lips. You know the depth. Okay, so to be able then to get in the airway with the endotracheal tube, you need to paralyze the vocal cords, otherwise they will snap shut on you, and there's a name for that. It's called the laryngospasm, and you need one of these laryngoscopes. So this one has a standard blade. It's a Macintosh, a size 3. Yep, a nice handle, and underneath this will hold that like so. This is a left-handed blade. There are right-handed blades, but I've never seen them being used. Everyone seems to use this one. Right, and this goes then, depresses the tongue, but we'll do that on the model here. depresses the tongue, and it should sit between the tongue and the epiglottis. So let me see if you can get a better view. Yeah, the tongue and the epiglottis. So this one will go over and then sit. Yeah, sit over the tongue and in the epiglottis. And then if you look at the head here on the side, so imagine it's in there like that, you will move the whole mandible and tongue in that direction, not that extreme. You just usually do a little bit like so, but you try to avoid hinging. Yep, it's a movement like that. Very careful not to hurt the teeth. Alright, which will visualize the airway. So let me do this with my fingers. So what you're trying to do is have that laryngoscope there, and then you move it in that direction, and now you have a clear open airway, and we can start advancing the tube. Yep, so usually coming from the side so you don't occlude your vision. There's my two black markers. Yeah, you have to see this for yourself, and we'll go in and make sure we're not going too far. So this one I've intentionally put very far. It's 25 at the lips. Now, why is that too far? If we look at the bronchus here, you see it has gone into the right bronchus. So it needs to come back a little bit. Yep. So now it's better, it's no longer in the right bronchus. I can see it in the depth, just there. Yep. And now at the lips, it is 22, 23. Yeah, and that's a good depth. And that's your ET tube.